And good evening. Will the meeting of the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission for November 6, 2024, please come to order? This evening's meeting will be a virtual planning and zoning meeting hosted by Zoom. During this meeting, our procedures will be as follows. Number one, when you first enter the Zoom meeting, you will be in a virtual waiting room until the meeting host admits you. Number two, please be aware that your camera, if you have one, and your microphone may be muted by the meeting host when you enter the meeting. You can turn on your camera at any time so that you can be seen by others when and if you choose to. In order to run an efficient and orderly meeting in this virtual environment, unless stated otherwise by the meeting chair during the meeting host may keep everyone other than the commission members muted. You will still be able to hear everything said by the commission members, even if you are muted and or your camera is not on. There will be an opportunity for public comment during public hearings, at which time public participants will be unmuted. During the public hearing, the applicant will be invited to present the application, explaining to the commission and others present what is being requested. The meeting host will share all related documents on the screen as needed. In addition, all applications and supporting materials for each application on the agenda have been available through a direct link on the Planning and Zoning page on the town's website. Comments of town agencies will be discussed as applicable to the application. There will be clarifying questions from the commission, and the town planner will direct our attention to any additional items pertinent to the application. After all the commissioner questions are exhausted, those who wish to speak in support or in opposition to the application will be asked to come forward, state their name and address for the record, and make a statement. The applicant will then have an opportunity to address any questions or concerns raised by the public or commissioners. Once the public hearing is closed, the applicant is free to leave or remain for the balance of the public hearings and the regular meeting, during which the commission will try to reach a decision on each application. Each applicant will be notified in writing as to the decision of this commission and has a right to appeal to the Superior Court if desired. Decisions of this meeting are available the day after the meeting by calling the Planning and Zoning Department at 203-453 or by emailing planning.zoning@guilford.gov after 9 a.m. All actions taken on applications tonight by the commission will be by roll call. All commissioners and staff will identify themselves for the record before speaking. Seated this evening are the following members who will please identify themselves. Kevin Clark.
Here.
Bill Friend.
Here.
Roger Joyce.
Here.
Scott Evan. Is he there? No. Sean Cosgrove as chairman. I know Philip Johnson plans to join late if he can. He was on a plane today. So,
Hey, I'm here.
oh, hey, Ted. All right, good. The alternates present are Larry Rizzolo, Bob Harrington, and Don Pritchard. Staff present are Ann Harchin, town planner, Abby Haley, the zoning enforcement officer, and Robin Penna, the P&Z administrative assistant. This meeting will be recorded via the Zoom platform and made available on the town website for viewing.
Hey, Sean.
Yes.
Don't mind me, like maybe point of order. I think there's room to sit two alternates, if you so choose. Probably should.
1, 2,
There's 5 regular members.
4, 5. You're right. So we could seat 2. Yeah.
Good. We could. So we've got Don, Mr. Harrington, and Larry, right?
Yeah, I think I was seated last time around, so it should go to the.
So
other
let's
side.
go. Let's go with Don, if you're willing, and also Mr. Harrington.
Sure. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right then. Andy, you want to kick off the agenda, or should I read? Okay.
Our first item on the agenda tonight is 1250 Lane Pond Road, map 116, lot 3, zone R8. The applicant agent is Tony Boldock of Thomas A. Stevens and Associates on behalf of the owner, Chris Shapiro of Shaps Lodge LLC. This is a special permit to allow an accessory structure over 750 square feet.
So is Tony Bulldog here?
No, this is Chuck Mandel for Tony Baldock, Mr. Chairman. I'll be representing. You ready for presentation?
Go ahead.
Okay, sounds good. So, good evening. My name's Chuck Mandel, agent for Chris Shapiro, the applicant. The address is 1250 Lanes Pond. It's in the northwest corner of the town, North Branford, Durham area. It's off of Beaverhead Road, if that helps anybody. It was the former Marchegan Sportsman's Club. It's about a 34-acre parcel, and it's surrounded by over 400 acres of the regional water authority. My client is proposing an accessory structure of 1,500 square feet, single story, to store farm equipment, landscape equipment. There's an existing 1,200 square foot building up there that has a half bath. It's used for picnics, I believe. The sporting club, I guess, used it for picnics and that type of other activities. I did have an exhibit. It shows the nearest structure is about 0.21 miles away, or 11,304 linear feet away from the proposed heavily wooded area. Wetlands has looked at it. There's no inland wetlands in the area within 100 feet. And we did do the B100A for the health department, and we do have a letter of approval from them. There's going to be no plumbing. It'll be electric only. Thank you for sharing, whoever did that.
What is the building gonna look like?
Just a metal shed, 1,500 square foot. Couple of four
Yeah.
garage doors.
Do we have a representation of what it's gonna look
Yeah,
like?
it was submitted with the application. It's there's a NTC Carports is the name of the company. And I believe it was.
Give me a second and I'll bring it up.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
So it is the kind of apropos to Ted's question, is the structure going to be visible to any of the neighbors, or is it completely obstructed by the tree lines and?
No, Mr. Chairman, that's why I prepared that exhibit, to show it was over 1,100 square feet away from the nearest neighbor. So that was from the Guilford GIS. It's okay. So there's a rendering of it, and on the left-hand side, those are the different colors. This is going to be a white. This will be white.
So they've got bay doors, which will accept, it looks like vehicles. This is not to be construed in any way, shape, or form as a commercial
No,
operation.
absolutely not. That's only for farm equipment, tractors and such.
Thank you.
No commercial element at all involved in this. But it's very isolated, so that security is a problem up there. In fact, there's no access to that road except with a key. My client and the water company are the only people that are authorized to be up there.
Given that it's all very wooded around there, I did a drive-by. Is there land to farm? What's the purpose of the farm equipment? Are they planning to
Maintenance of the property right now. I'm not sure what his future plans are.
Mhm.
But but there is lawn equipment up there. There's a large field that's up there also.
And Zone R8 does not allow any commercial operations, right?
Residential uses are the majority of the uses. There are some, I wouldn't necessarily call them commercial uses that are allowed, but I can bring up the table if you want me to for the zoning. Give me a second.
I'm only bringing this up because it's a fairly large structure above the accessory structure limit of 750 square feet. And if it were to be sold, someone else could possibly use it commercially.
Yeah, so if you can see this well, this is an accessory structure, so hold on. There are some storage allowances for accessory structures, some keeping of animals allowed, adult family daycare, all of these with special permits, bed and breakfast.
So any of those additional uses would have to come before us with a special permit.
Yes.
Thank you.
Looks pretty straightforward to me, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
You may want to open up,
Yeah.
because it's a public hearing item for comments from the public.
Public comment. So is there anyone in the waiting room?
No.
Okay. Well, I'll just do it, as part of the routine. If there's anyone who has any comments in approval or objection to this, would they please step forward? Apparently there are none. And I think we can close this item.
So do we need a
Unless,
motion?
unless any other commissioners have questions.
I move that we close the public hearing on this issue.
I'll second that.
So have a vote.
Or any further discussion?
Any further discussion?
Well,
All right, we'll take a vote. Kevin Clark?
No, no, no.
Yes.
You need to make,
What?
you need to make a motion to approve the item per the staff report.
oh, so we're doing both. Okay.
Yeah.
Do I hear a motion to approve this item for a staff report?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. So we'll take a vote on that item. Larry Rizzolo.
I'm not seated.
Oh, I thought you were. Oh, that's right. You were.
No.
Go ahead. So, Don, how about you?
It's a yes.
Okay. I'm not sure if you go by Bob or Rob, Mr.
Bob.
Harrington.
I'm not a
Bob.
thief. Don't call me Rob.
Okay. I'll try to remember that.
It's okay.
Don't call me
It's a
Frank.
yes from me.
Okay. Kevin Clark,
Yes.
Ted Sands.
Yes.
I don't think Scott joined.
No, he never came back.
I think he saw we had a
Bill-
quorum and took off.
He was having
Bill-
internet issues.
Oh, okay.
Bill Freeman,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes.
And Roger.
Roger.
Oh, Roger, sorry. Roger. I'm so
Roger
sorry.
votes yes as well.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay.
The next item on the agenda is another public hearing item. This is 14 Benton's Knoll, map 8, lot 2414. This is a planned residential district. The owner is John Young. This is a hearing for the review of the cease and desist, unauthorized clearing and grading within the Benton's Knoll conservation easement. And Abby is here. She can walk you through the cease and desist. The violations of the cease and desist require a hearing before the commission to continue them. So I will let Abby introduce the text of the cease and desist.
Good evening. And do you want me to share my screen for this one? Should I share the screen for the cease and desist?
Yeah, if you need to look at specific things, or you could just walk through it.
Okay. Okay, so the Benton's Knoll Plan Residential Development was approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission by special permit in 2009. As part of the approval, over 10 acres of the land were preserved in a conservation easement in perpetuity. Individual residential unit owners were given the right to develop a landscape and landscape their units within the land excluded from the conservation easement and directly surrounding the residential units. This unit area has been permanently demarcated with a 4x4 markers at the periphery of each housing unit. In October 2023, the town received a complaint of clearing of large trees within the conservation easement. Additional clearing was noted in April of 2024. In November of 2023, it was recorded that a discussion took place between Mr. Young and Kevin McGee, the town of Guilford tree warden, regarding the removal of invasives within the easement and the possibility of adding arborvitae and local evergreens. There's no record of the proposed plantings and or other documentation. On April 15th, 2024, Mr. McGee allowed via email the planting of arborvitae along the edge of the use area of the conservation easement area. No other planting or clearing was allowed at that time, and Mr. McGee requested confirmation from the Benton's Knoll Association and the proposed plantings. No record of that approval has been found. On September 27, 2024, a site visit was performed by the town of Guilford planning and zoning staff, and violations were recorded as described below. Over 700 square feet of conservation easement area has been completely denuded to raw soil of existing plantings and related habitat. The entirety of naturally stratified plant materials from ground covers to shrubs and all trees were removed. Soil was removed, regraded, and the area was compacted with heavy construction equipment. In addition, debris piles were created of remaining forest floor debris. A total of more than 317 caliper inches of pre-existing tree were removed. This includes 3 larger trees, as evidenced by the remaining trunks, presumably cut down last fall at the time of the original complaint. New plantings of arborvitaes and other evergreens have been placed within the conservation area, contrary to the direction that they should be placed within the use area adjacent to the conservation area. A stone-walled planting area has been created at the edge of the use area, which overflows into the conservation easement area. And I can pull up the photos.
Abby, just to be clear, the arborvitaes that were proposed and planted were supposed to be on the property owners, within property owners' property
Area
lines.
of use. Correct.
Thank you.
So give me 1 second. I'm just going to share my screen. Okay, and attached is also the conservation easement for Benton's Knoll. But I can show. Give me 1 second here.
Just to be clear for the commissioners and anyone else listening, the conservation easement is one part of this development. There are not several conservation easements. There's only one. Is that correct?
Well, and the conservation easement was a requirement for approval of the,
Dan, Ted,
Development.
I'm just asking for clarification. There was only one area that was considered a conservation easement.
Yeah, essentially, the areas that weren't demarcated as use areas directly around the houses, everything else is in a conservation easement.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Abby.
Okay, so here, site plans, Benton's Knoll. This is the area that was just disturbed within the conservation easement. This is Mr. Young's house and area of use. Okay, and then. These are the arborvitaes that were planted. This is the line along where the conservation easement is. And this within here is the conservation easement. As you can see, it has been cleared.
So that picture, just to be clear, is after the owner did all the clearing of the conservation easement.
Correct.
Thank you.
So this is about a, Kevin Clark for the commission, this is about a little over 1 acre lot, if I read correctly. So it actually looks like it may have been about a quarter of an acre that was disturbed. Pretty large area.
And you're on mute.
700 square feet.
To
All right, that's not-
clarify, this is Ann Harchin. There are no lots within Benton's Knoll. All the land is held jointly in common. There are demarcated use areas.
Okay, so maybe their demarcated use area was a little over an acre.
These are additional photos showing the conservation easement that has been denuded. Here's another photo.
All right.
Mr. Young's area of use is
Yep,
right over here.
okay.
And then this is what has been cleared. Let's see if I can find another photo.
All right. Well, I mean, I get the drift of this.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So just so I think, when I first read it, I misread it as 700 trees, but then when I reread it, it's caliper inches, so it's not actually 700 trees. It's just 700 combined inches of trees. I was like, whoa.
Still, that's not a trivial amount of trees.
Oh, no, by no means. I just was at first, I thought, Lord, but then I read back and reread it again. It didn't make sense.
Yeah, it was also too, if you look at some of the stump sizes on those down trees, that was obviously a little bit more than a removal of invasives and some poison ivy or whatever it was that the resident wanted to use, do.
Right.
If I may, I just want to read the violation section of the conservation easement so that you know what your purview is here. This is on page 5 of the conservation easement, number 6A. If it is determined by the Planning and Zoning Commission or its designee or successor as applicable, collectively Planning and Zoning Commission, that a violation of this conservation easement exists, the grantors shall be ordered to cease and desist from and prevent any activity which, in the opinion of the Planning and Zoning Commission, is in violation of this conservation easement. B, within 60 days of such order and after appropriate notice, the Planning and Zoning Commission shall hold a hearing for the purpose of determining if the cease and desist order shall continue. So that's your first task. And C, if the grantor is found to have violated the terms of this conservation easement, the grantor agrees, among other things, to restore the easement area as closely as possible to its natural state. Restoration shall be at the expense of the grantor and in accordance with plans developed by qualified professionals such as a landscape architect, land surveyor, or professional engineer and approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission. And then it goes on, but Abby can talk you through the rest of it. At some point, you may want to hear from Mr. Young and his attorney as well.
Well, all right, I mean,
I've also
let's,
spoke to Kevin McGee, and he stated that he gave no approval for clearing of anything within the conservation easement to Mr. Young.
all right, so let's hear what Mr. Beatty or Mr. Young has to say.
That's fine with me. Good evening, members of the commission. Yeah, my client met with Kevin and with Jamie Stein to show them where they planned on planting the white pine trees along the line. And I sent a letter and some photos that I delivered to the land use offices late this afternoon, showing the location of the white pine trees, which are on the line, in my opinion, between the conservation easement and the use area for the Young residents. There were, at the time the house was built, there were stones that were placed right up to the line on the conservation easement, and the white pines were placed slightly to the conservation easement side of that line, because that was the spot that made the most sense to place them. Mr. Young met at the property with Ms. Stein and I believe with Mr. McGee to show them where he was planning on planting the white pines. He also had indicated that he wanted to remove the invasives. His understanding was that he could remove them, but that's obviously not what Mr. McGee's understanding was. I'm just letting you know that Mr. Young attempted to try and have discussions with both the town planner and the inland wetlands officer to talk about what he wanted to do, and tried to do what he thought he was permitted to do. He's prepared to, and as part of what I submitted to the town this afternoon, he's already engaged a land use architect or a landscape architect to come up with a plan to restore the conservation easement by planting natural grasses, by planting eastern pines, and you can see if Ms. Harchin or Ms. Hall could call up the plan, what he's proposing to do after consulting with a landscape architect. I do want to point out that he did not remove 700 caliper inches of trees. It's 317, which again is a substantial number, but it's not 700 trees, and it's 317 caliper inches. So he, in the correspondence with Mr. McGee indicated that he had no problem with arborvitae being, and I'm reading from Mr. McGee's email, no problem with arborvitae being planted along the edge of your use area and the conservation easement area. Mr. Young tried to place it in an area that he thought would be of maximum benefit to buffer the area between his neighbor's property and his use property. He would like to, he's removed the arborvitae as was directed in the cease and desist order. He's had the ryegrass planted or seeded on the site. He's mulched it. He erected a silt fence immediately, all within the 10 days of the receipt of the notice of the cease and desist order. So he believed that he could do what he did, but when it was pointed out to him that he couldn't, he immediately took steps to comply with the terms of the cease and desist order, including engaging the services. And he met with 3 landscape architects who all suggested that the suggestion in the cease and desist order that he restore 200 caliper inches of new trees may not be a viable option given the quantity of deer that roam through the area and eat the plants that are growing in there. But he did come up with a plan that I've attached to the letter I submitted today, outlining what his landscape architect believes would be a viable plan to restore the area to its more natural state than what it is right now. So,
Jeff, did Mr. Young get the approval of planning and zoning, as was noted in the cease and desist order, for the hiring of the landscape designer?
No, he hasn't. But he wanted. He's
That was part of the order.
It said you are found. I'm reading from the cease and desist order number 5. It says, if you are found by the commission to have violated the terms of the conservation easement, you'll be required to restore the easement as closely as possible to its natural state. This will include, but is not limited to, the following: hire a licensed landscape architect or landscape ecologist at your own expense to create a planting plan to restore the natural native habitat. So
read on though. It does say that it shall be approved by.
That's why I attached it to my letter. We're not saying that this is what we're going to do. We presented it for this commission to decide whether or not it was satisfactory.
But he did it ahead of getting approval. I mean,
No,
Dan,
no.
am I off base?
No, no.
I just
Procedurally, what needs to happen is that first the commission needs to vote to continue the cease and desist. Then the commission would recommend, do you want to make any modifications to the remedy as suggested by Abby in her letter? And if so, let's spell that out. But at the same time, this is also a public hearing item. So there, at some point, you may want to take comments from the public if there's anybody who would like to speak on the record before you negotiate what happens next.
Jeff, do you have any more comments from Jeff or Mr. Young?
No, just that, unlike other cease and desist orders that I think we've all seen, Mr. Young did attempt to talk to the town planner and Mr. McGee to let them know what he wanted what he would like to do, and he thought that they had approved at least some of what he did. And now, following the receipt of the cease and desist order, he's taken steps to comply with what was asked of him within the 10-day period, and he's also taken steps, maybe prematurely, but I think it demonstrates his desire to try and come up with a plan that's going to be acceptable to this commission in the town to restore the conservation easement area to its more natural state. I wasn't trying to jump the gun or railroad anything through here, but to demonstrate his desire to try and comply, to try and come up with a solution to this problem.
Thank you. Let's open it up to the public with anyone who has comments in objection to or in favor of what has been happening here. The waiting room empty?
No, there's one person raising their hand.
I'm here.
If you could
Thank
just
you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
state your name and address for the record.
Yeah, thank you. We had submitted a letter, but I'll read it because we didn't think we'd be able to attend. But Debbie Coman, I live at 80 Old Sachems Head Road. Our backyard is the cul-de-sac at Benton's. John's house is directly behind us. It's the one house who's directly impacted by this, and we've been here since day one. We'll continue to push the town and the association accountable. We've been pushing since 2009 for landscaping to assist with our increased water flow and the lack of privacy within our home. There have been many fails on the town and the builder over the duration. Most recently, the town allowed another pool to be put in that technically, per the 2014 planning and zoning minutes, should not have been. At minimum, it should have been brought back to planning and zoning. With the most recent cease and desist, as has been outlined by the enforcement officer, we're not talking one isolated incident. There are numerous violations with direct disregard to the town direction, lack of communication to the Association of Activity and lack of oversight by the Association Committee of Activity of their homeowners. Now, the buffer of trees behind our house that we spent over a decade fighting for was removed. We excused the first 2 rounds of removal. However, the last one was blatant disregard, overreach, and encroachment into territory that is not the homeowner's right to do so. The association also has not responded. There should be no question from this commission that it's a direct violation of the terms of the easement and it should be restored to its fullest extent. There were dozens of trees and shrubs removed in various stages and maturity in addition to the ground cover that will take years to rebuild. If over 317 caliper inches of trees were removed, then minimally the same should be replaced. We've also historically questioned the establishment of the association and what was shared from the town for them to establish their bylaws and controls. And we would like to know what the association is sharing to ensure these issues don't occur again, because there's an association involved, not just an individual homeowner. We've been one of the few that remain after 15 years. We were the ones here fighting to help get the bond that the association is now using to get more plantings. Yet the trees on the hill to our right that took over a decade to even get are being overtaken by weeds and dying. And we have the home behind us clear cutting well into the easement. The association appears to have no oversight or control measures. In summary, 14 Benton's Knoll and the association should be held accountable for full restoration with a minimum of 317 caliper expected to be restored. There should be a clear understanding of the bylaws established by the association to prevent this from occurring again. And finally, we would like the 2014 pool agreement to be put into the bylaws and on record as per the planning and zoning minutes from April 2nd, 2014. I won't read those, but per approved voting, there should not be a pool in the house behind us. Thank you.
Are there any more comments from the public? And should we go to a motion to
Close the public
close
hearing?
this? Yeah.
Well, it's up to you.
Well, are there any more comments from any other commissioners? Do you have any other?
John,
I have a question. If we close it, does then that take the remedies that are listed at the 60-day part and codify them into what's actually going to be done? Or are we thinking of increasing the number of caliper trees per Ms. Coleman's request? I don't know how that mechanism works.
Yeah, if you close the hearing, you wouldn't be taking any more public comment, but you could still discuss any conditions you want to impose or any changes you would like to make. If you want to keep the public hearing open, it would be only to receive additional information from either Mr. Young and his attorney or members of the public.
and I have a question in that regard, and so perhaps we could keep it open and I can pose this question to Mr. Young and Attorney Beatty. Based on a cease and desist order, maybe this is a matter of timing and maybe it's not so delineated, but I think it's useful as the order is written that the conversations between Kevin McGee and Mr. Young appear to have begun in November 2023 and continued thereafter. Whereas in October 2023, a complaint was received about clearing trees, which appears to have occurred before that Kevin McGee was having conversations. So I just want to clarify, were there any conversations between Kevin and Mr. Young prior to the tree removal?
No.
Okay, thank you. And further, at that time, was Mr. Young aware that this conservation easement was in place?
Let me restate that. Prior to that October 2023 tree removal of the large 3 mature trees that were dead and dying by a licensed arborist, Kevin McGee did discuss with Jamie Stein the 8 white pines that were planted. Jamie Stein, town planner at the time, physically marked where they went. So I wasn't privy to the conversation she had with Kevin, but through her correspondence and emails, Kevin McGee did discuss the plantings of those 8 white pines.
Okay, thank you. So there was conversation, perhaps not with you directly, but there was conversation about the any clearing on that on that section.
Correct.
Good, thank you.
I have a question. There were 2 episodes of clearing. Was the first one not in the easement area or in the easement area?
I believe the first one was in the easement area, and that followed the association had engaged a company to come out and do a kind of a canvas of the trees within the conservation easement. And that company had identified trees that were diseased or dying. And those trees that were removed in the fall of last year, October of last year, were identified on that list of trees that were diseased and dying. And the concern from the Young family was that they were going to fall, they were closer to the house. They were inside the conservation easement area, but the concern was that they were going to fall into the use area and towards the house. That's why the trees were removed.
So that was approved then in some fashion?
It was identified by the association as trees that were diseased and dying throughout the conservation easement. It wasn't just focused on the Young property. As Mr. Cosgrove brought up earlier, the conservation easement area basically wraps around all of the 14 dwelling units at Benton's Knoll. It's not just specific to the Young property. So they were my understanding is they were doing a survey of all the trees within the conservation easement area.
And was this survey then brought to the attention of the tree warden or the town, or was it just something that was done by the homeowners association?
My understanding is the arborist was engaged by the association, but I don't know if they shared it with the tree warden.
Well, let me see if I understand what we're talking about here. The association took it upon itself to have this survey done of dead and dying trees, and then took it upon itself to who cut those trees down? Was it the association or was it Mr. Young?
Save the tree.
No, who hired them?
Oh, the association.
The association hired the company that took the trees down.
And what is the authority of the association to remove trees from the conservation area? I'm not clear on that point. I thought the agreement to establish the conservation area was between the town and the association.
I think you're right, Mr. Sands.
Well, it seems to me that the town would have to approve this occurring, that this isn't something that willy-nilly the association had. I mean, if the association decided it wanted to do away with the conservation easement and hired a bunch of bulldozers to go swipe the whole thing down, they don't have authority to do that. So, I mean, why should they have the authority to go around chopping down trees?
I'm not suggesting that they do.
I think this is what Debbie Coleman was speaking to, is that initially there was some things done by the association and that she's concerned that they need to codify some way to control that in the future.
And to be clear, we don't have any records in this office. And we've asked Kevin McGee if he has any record of any correspondence about any of this tree clearing. So, you know, one would hope that if they had reached out to the tree warden for permission to remove dead trees, that there would be some kind of documentation, and we can't find any, and Kevin can't give us any. So you have that as well.
So would we be looking at a possible situation here where, if we're looking to rectify the situation out there, where the association may be on the hook for the larger trees, and then Mr. Young is on the hook for reestablishing a more native plantings going on? Is that a possibility?
That's making some sense to me.
I have a question, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
Debbie had discussed some sort of codification to prevent this from happening in the future. I don't know what kind of authority we have to require the homeowners association to set some kind of bylaw. I don't know, like, do we have any sort of authority to say you have to put this into your bylaws to prevent this from happening in the future?
No, it wouldn't go in the bylaws. It would just the establishment of the conservation easement is an agreement between the association and the town.
Well,
It was, and that was part of that was an article it was an item in the approval process for the whole development.
Right.
Yep. My understanding of what Debbie Coleman was requesting was that something be put in place to guarantee that this doesn't happen in the future, that an overreach doesn't occur. I don't know that we have any way of putting that in place beyond what we already have of something happens and we react to it and a cease and desist occurs again. Should it happen? I don't know that we have an authority to do some of what Debbie has asked for in the form of prevention. And I'm just trying to make sure that my understanding is correct.
So no,
I don't think that actually is before us. I think what's before us now is the cease and desist. Whether Mr. Young has, he's gotten ahead of himself, in my opinion, in terms of trying to comply without getting a prior approval from the town planning office for hiring a landscape consultant. And Kevin's question about native plants, I think, is germane, because of the conservation easement was basically.
But I think that he's already drawn up or hired someone. I think he was entitled to do that. I think what he then has to do is give the drawings and the specifications that he's proposing to the town for them to review and approve. Is that correct?
That's exactly what we were trying to do. We weren't trying to say this is what it's going to be. We were trying to say we've engaged somebody because we want to try and remedy the situation. And if this is a first step towards an ongoing discussion as to what would be the proper way to remedy the situation. This was not presented as this is what we're going to do at all.
And my understanding from what Mr. Beatty read was that if the cease and desist is continued, that is the trigger for him having to put in that plan that he's already got ready. So he's created a plan and he's ready to put it in as soon as he can, but he can't do that until we say the cease and desist has to continue. Is my understanding of how Mr. Beatty has read this.
No, he can't implement the plan until the town okays it.
Oh, I meant put it into us, put it in for the town to okay, not put it into action.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Yes.
But I think then, Anne, would it be good to just leave this open so you can review what they delivered to you recently and then advise us as to at our next meeting?
Yeah, you have a number of options, and let me offer up a possibility here. One is that you pass a motion as required by the language of the conservation easement, saying that you have found that the homeowner has violated the terms of the conservation easement and the cease and desist as written should stand. Then the next step would be for you to state on the record that you're okay with either me or somebody else, pick your person to review the hiring of the landscape architect or landscape ecologist, and also review the planting plans for compliance with the intent of the restoration. So you might use me in my capacity as a landscape architect to review who they're hiring and what they're proposing to do. But you would also have to, in that moment, grant me the authority to suggest changes if they need to be made. Or you could have Mr. Young and company come back at a later time and present their plans to the commission for the commission to approve. You have options there. But the first step would be essentially to state that the cease and desist as written should continue, and that there's some process. Either you follow what Abby suggested in her letter, or come up with your own steps to follow to remedy that situation.
Well, it seems to me that there's a couple things we need to do. First of all, we need to continue the cease and desist. Do we need a motion to do that?
Before we do that, we should move to close the public hearing, I believe, which I will so move.
Well, I had another questions. I don't know if I can ask them inside once it's closed. So my question is, well, actually, I got 2 points. One is, first question is for either Mr. Beatty or Mr. Young. What was the original planting plan for the area that you had cleared inside the conservation easement?
To reseed it with a natural grass mix that's identical to other areas of the common area.
So it was going to be a continuation of your lawn?
No, with the other grass that was in the conservation easement area.
Okay, because you're kind of offering up as a potential compromise or a solution. It sounds to me like almost what you were planning on doing in the first place.
The plan was
not necessarily a viable compromise. You're pretty much getting what you wanted in the first place. That's what it sounds like to me.
No, if that's what we said, that's not accurate. What the plan was to replant the area with natural native grasses, so that it looked like, after the grasses came in, that it looked like the remaining areas of the conservation easement, that it was the same type of grass. And that's what the plan was. So it wasn't a continuation of the lawn, because the conservation easement to the right and the left of this, the idea was to have the grass installed so it looked the same.
Right, but isn't that part of your plan that you're giving us tonight to approve, is planting?
Yes.
Right, so you're basically presenting, the plan you're presenting to us as a compromise is the plan that you kind of planned on doing in the first place. Essentially getting what you wanted.
No, but the goal wasn't to make it look like a continuation of the Young's lawn. It was to restore the grasses that are on either side. I'm not sure I understand.
Right. So
I don't, Mr. Beatty, I don't understand what you're proposing is what your client wanted all along. And I don't, and he took down 317 caliber inches of trees, and he's proposing to put back 200. I don't get this.
The 200 proposal wasn't from my client. That was what was contained in Ms. Halley's letter. That wasn't our proposal.
Well,
so I think, Ted, just to sort of get to the finish line here, we need to close down or agree to continue the cease and desist, and then we need to give either Ann the authority to make decisions on our behalf as to what is appropriate for rebuilding the area back to its original state, or let her look at it and then represent it to us. It's really kind of boils down to that, correct, Ann?
Yeah, I think that would be, it's probably, I would suggest that maybe it's more appropriate to have me look at it and come back to you with comments so that you know everybody's on board.
Correct.
As opposed to me just making a decision by myself.
Yeah, I think with your background, Ann, I think having your eyes on this on a firsthand basis and coming back to us is a good step towards some resolution that's fair to the
Right.
neighbors, the homeowners association, and to Mr. Young.
All right, but I am troubled by look, it seems to me that if 317 caliber inches of trees were taken down, if we're trying to reestablish what was in this conservation area, that's the amount of trees that should be put back in.
And Ted, I think that's what is pretty clear from various comments here that is going to happen when Ann comes back to us with another proposal.
Ted, let's give Ann a little bit of latitude.
Okay.
This is a little bit of latitude.
So motion to continue the cease and desist?
Close the public hearing first.
Close
Close the
hearing
public,
first,
okay,
please.
okay.
So I'll make that
Motion to
motion.
close the public hearing.
If I could just, before you vote on it, if I could just, the one thing I would request is that, and I believe Ms. Harchin brought this up earlier, if the commission is going to continue this discussion, we would like, to the extent possible, to be a part of that ongoing discussion as well. Because I just don't want to be foreclosed from doing that because the public hearing is closed. That's my only concern.
We could put it back on the next month's agenda as a new
And
public
reopen
hearing item and reopen
Right.
the hearing.
Right. So Jeff, it'll be like a second hearing, you know.
That's fine. I just wanted to make sure we had that.
No. Oh, you will not be closed out of discussions. No,
Thank you.
We're not saying that.
Sure, Sean, before we proceed with I have two observations I'd like to put on the record. One is, it appears to me that Mr. Young is making a good faith effort to correct this. However, the details get worked out. I think they're going to be worked out. So thank you for that approach. And I'm also, though, concerned about the going back a couple of years, the involvement of the homeowners association with the dead tree assessment, and then appearing to take some independent action in the easement area. I think as a whole separate conversation, I think we ought to make note of the record that happened. And then we ought to talk about that with the association so we can come to an understanding about how to better control that. Thank you.
I appreciate that, Roger. I'm Benton's Knoll as a project that began in 2009 has
giving.
mixed record. I'll put it that way.
The gift that keeps giving.
You're being charitable about mixed record.
Yeah. Well, let me put it this way. When I saw Debbie, I didn't even have to guess who it was. I just recognized her.
So I think do we already have a motion and a second to
Close the public hearing.
close the public hearing?
Yeah, it was not seconded, I don't believe.
I did.
Did you? Okay.
All right.
So do you want to vote on that?
What's that?
You should vote on the closing of the public hearing, and then you can
Yes.
vote on a motion. Yeah.
So Mr. Freeman.
Yes.
Let's see. I need my roll. Mr. Freeman, Mr. Pritchard,
Yes.
Kevin Clark.
Aye.
Thank you for that. Hey, Bob.
It's yes.
Okay. Roger.
Yes.
Ted.
Yes.
And I will vote yes. Public hearing on this item is closed.
So now we need to make a motion, correct, Ann?
Yes.
So I'll make a motion that we keep the cease and desist in place and that we also give Ann the authority to review the plans that the applicant or Mr. Young is going to bring forth to her to mitigate the problems that have been created through clearing.
I think the exact wording Ann was looking for was to review the hiring of the person and also because I think it's not just the plans that you're reviewing, but also the person that was hired. Yes?
I think you're right, Bob. Yep. I think there's a fine line between what you consider restoration wherever else you want to, whatever other word you want to use. But I think that some careful review of that should be done. And I think Ann has the background to do it.
I'll second the motion.
Here we go again.
Yes.
Bill Freeman.
Yes.
Mr. Pritchard.
Yes.
Kevin Clark.
Yes.
Bob.
Yes.
Not Rob. Bob. Roger Joyce.
Yes.
Yes.
Who?
That's it.
You, Ted.
Yes.
And I will vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, our next item on the agenda is 2293 Boston Post Road, map 78, lot 2503, zone PRB3. The applicant owner is James Betulia Sr. This is a special permit to modify the original conditions of approval for this project.
The applicant or representative in the waiting room or ready to go?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. For the record, my name is Michael Harkin. I'm a professional engineer and principal of Harkin Engineering, located at 78 Wolf Hollow Lane in the town of Killingworth, Connecticut. Again, here tonight on behalf of my client. To shorten everything, it's basically Guilford Texaco. Guilford Texaco, located at 2293 Boston Post Road. We're here tonight, again, as Ann had stated, for a special permit application modification. Basically, we're looking to clean up the file. Those of you that were on the commission back in 2020, we brought forth a plan to build an addition with Munger Construction. It was approximately 50 by 75 feet in the rear of the building, the existing building of Guilford Texaco. That plan was approved. The construction was done, implemented in 2021. Building certificate of occupation was granted. And as part of the original approval of the project, we were about 100 to 150 feet away from the opening. We're in the rear of the property. But the way the Guilford regulations are written is that the town commissions are allowed to look at the entire property when you bring something forward. In that instance, the town looked at having us redo all the lighting on the building, some of the drainage, and then one of the other items that was brought up was, at the time back in 2020, any project on the Boston Post Road required sidewalks be implemented and put in. There was a townwide implementation of putting sidewalks along Route 1. We didn't really want to at the time to have to put them in because we kind of knew the struggles that would come with DOT. But it basically came down to, if we wanted the project approved, we needed to put the sidewalks in, which we agreed to do. We had all intentions of putting the sidewalks in. Our contractor, the owner put up a bond with the town to put the sidewalks in. The contractor went to DOT to take out a permit to put the sidewalks in because they're in the right of way. DOT came back with a magnitude and a huge punch list of items they wanted done prior to granting approval of installing the sidewalk. The town engineer, myself, the owners, and about 4 members of DOT met out at the site. The first thing they wanted was a full survey of the front of the property, across the street, X amount of feet down from each property line, which we provided. They told us what they wanted for a design of the sidewalk, which we did. We sent it back up there. They came down with a long laundry list, again, of things they wanted done along that property line, redoing the entire amount of curbing, reclaim on the road, changing the islands, putting up different signs, taking down DOT signs. More so that all the work just to be able to put the sidewalks in came up to the tune of around $70,000 before we could even put a sidewalk in. We already had the CO, we already had everything. we went back to the first selectman and the town engineer and said, listen, we're trying to put the sidewalks in, but we can't put the sidewalks in because they want us to do all this additional work. The town engineer even reached out to them. They basically came back and said, listen, this is what we want. If you guys want sidewalks, this is what has to be done. Within this permit modification, we basically submitted all the drawings, back and forth correspondence with DOT, just to show everybody, hey, we tried to do so. We can't do just the sidewalks. We have to do all this extra stuff. So at that point, it basically came down to, we asked DOT one more time. They basically said no. And, you know, the town engineer even sent an email up to them that said, listen, they're trying to put these in. Can you lessen it? If not, they're just going to go back to the commission and get that condition taken off the record. And they basically said, no, we have to implement all these items. So we are here tonight to ask the commission basically to clean the file. We already have the CO on the building. It's been up for almost 3 years now, to remove that condition so the bond that the town is holding can get released back to the applicant.
Thanks, Michael. So are there any contiguous sidewalks to Guilford Texaco on that part of Route 1?
No, sir. We called it the sidewalk to nowhere. To the right side, there was a vacant lot. And to the left side was the old, I believe it was the Indian food place or the Chinese food place.
Yep.
And
You're
then
right.
it continues
You're right.
on to the farm, and the farm doesn't have any sidewalks either. Yeah, we were so willing to put the sidewalks in that we said, hey, we have the bond. We'll give the town that money to go put useful sidewalks someplace else in town. Basically, what we were told is that's illegal to do. You can't give money from your project to be used someplace else. So, you know, we put forth our best effort to do so, and it just kind of blew up in our face.
How much was the bond?
And I believe it's like 15,000 maybe.
Yeah, I don't have it in front of me, but we can take a look and look it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you know, while you're looking for that, Ann, you know, a cost that was assumed, maybe a bond that is posted is, you know, less than the expected cost, but going from 15 to 70 is a pretty big jump.
And that's before the sidewalk.
That's before the sidewalk. Yes, sir. Even if the town,
those are just the improvements.
right? Even if the town decided to say, hey, we're going to pull your bond and we're going to put the sidewalks in ourselves, the town has to spend that $70,000 of all the improvements before they can even put the sidewalks in. You know, one of the things that we suggested is there's grant money out there for the town of Guilford. If they're looking to put sidewalks in, for the town to hire a separate consulting firm to design everything along Route 1. So when a project comes in, it's already designed and approved, and they just have to pay for the sidewalks. It's very easy.
I mean,
I was going to say, it's very easy to take a vacant parcel and design sidewalks on there because it's a new project. But every time a project comes up and they ask for sidewalks on something that's been there for 60, 70 years, there's a bunch of contingencies that DOT is putting on that to be able to get to put the sidewalks in.
Anything that goes, most of us know this, anything that goes on or near a state road is just, you know, rife with regulations. It's just comes with territory.
I know that area well. I find it hard to conceive of a extended sidewalk plan. Will it be on this property? That would be useful to anybody, frankly, especially going down the hill. So to your point, sir, when you say it's a sidewalk to nowhere, that's just a great description for this. And it seems inappropriate for us to demand that in this particular situation that it be put in place when it's unlikely it'll ever be used beyond that property or extended beyond that property.
Let me ask a question. What happens to the $15,000 bond?
It's currently 19,800 plus whatever interest has accrued. So if you vote to relieve them of this condition, we can release that bond back to the owner, James, sorry about the last name, Betulia, is that correct?
Yeah, yes. Close enough.
Well, I'm not going to get ahead of myself, but I think that is not an unreasonable suggestion.
And do we need to have public comment as well on this, or can we?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. So if there's anyone in the public who would like to speak in favor or in opposition to this application, please raise your hand. Seeing none? No. Any other comments by commissioners?
No, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
I would note that the Safe Streets program is gradually extending sidewalks, but I'm not aware that they have a plan in this area.
Yeah.
We had a battle at Hubbard Road to get a sidewalk in, but in that case, sidewalks are being extended and now go almost all the way to Hubbard Road, the Hubbard project. We have no analogous thing going on here. So,
and a lot has been happening on, Boston Street all the way from the Green, and it's now going to be extended, to Madison. So that's where the focus has been. But that area of Route 1 West, not much going on. Not much pedestrian traffic, as Roger mentioned.
So do we need a motion to close the public hearing?
Yes.
I think we do. Yeah.
I'll so move.
And I'll second.
All right. Let's do the voting thing again. Bill Freeman.
Yes.
Don Pritchard.
Yes.
Kevin Clark.
Aye.
Thank you for that.
Someone's got to continue the legacy, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Frank's gone, and now you got to play it straight as chair. So,
Bob Harrington.
Yes.
Roger Joyce.
Yes.
Ted Sands.
Yes.
And I'll vote yes.
All right. Do we need a motion to approve the application?
Yes, you do.
I make a motion to approve the application.
And Ted, would you like to second that?
I'll second it.
Moving right along. Ted Sands.
Yes.
Roger Joyce.
Yes.
Mr. Harrington.
Yes.
Who?
I can read your lips. Yes.
Yes, not I.
I'm gonna mix it up. Keep you on your toes.
Don Pritchard.
Aye.
Good job.
Get it in there.
Nice.
Well done. Well played.
Yes. And I'll vote yes.
Big study.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very
Mr. Chair, the next application is 209 Hemlock Avenue, map 109, lot 18, zone R8. The applicant owner is Christopher Collette. This is a special permit for an accessory structure over 750 square feet.
You guys get me one more time tonight. Good evening, Mr.
Yay.
Chairman, members of the commission. Again, for the record, my name is Michael Harkin, a professional engineer and principal of Harkin Engineering, located at 78 Wolf Hollow Lane in the town of Killingworth, Connecticut. Here tonight, again, as Ann had indicated, on behalf of my client, Chris Collette, for his project at 209 Hemlock Ave in your town of Guilford, Connecticut. The lot and parcel is known as Assessor's Map 109, Lot 18. It's located in the R8 zone. There are no inland wetlands on the site. And the site's comprised of just a little bit over an acre, 45,399 square feet. Again, we're here for a special permit application. We're looking to build a barn on the property that's approximately 40 feet by 64 feet. There will be no running water associated with the barn, very little grading. It's going on a flat portion of the site. And the proposed use for the site is the owner's classic car collection. Now, he's not going to be doing any repairs or anything like that. It's just really to store his cars themselves. Again, you could see that the rear of the parcel is where the barn will be located. There's already an existing driveway that goes up to there. That was put in by the previous owner. Per my discussions with the town engineer, that driveway is fairly steep. It's over 8%. In some areas, it's around 10 or 11%. Because of that, the town engineer requested that we put some geocell driveway grading. It's basically a grid that basically goes on the ground. It's kind of either tin or metal. You fill it with stone or dirt, and then you plant grass. What that does is it gives you the appearance of the whole driveway being grassed, and it can be mowed, but it's structural integrity, so a car can drive up it and you don't get the erosion during the heavy rains. Again, because this is a new structure, it is impervious. Because of that, we'll be increasing the amount of stormwater runoff. Hence that we have 2 underground detention systems put in for this barn. Because it's fairly large, again, it's going to be around 40 by 64. We have roof leaders for the front going to one drainage system, and then roof leaders from the rear going to a second drainage system. And it's basically beautiful sand and gravel over there. So there's no need or worry on our part for groundwater infiltration. It's going to be going right through there. So again, we met with the town staff at a town review meeting. They had brought up some concerns at that point, some modifications to our plan, which we made, we revised, and then we submitted them back in. So we addressed those items. We did a health department B100A application, which we do have an approval for that. And the proposed barn does meet all the bulk zoning standards for the town of Guilford as far as coverage, setbacks, and things of those natures. So with that being said, that ends my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions that any of the commissioners or the public may have.
Do we have any comment from abutting property owners? This is a fairly large building on a smallish lot. So any neighbors have any comments that we're aware of?
Not that I'm aware of, sir. We did do the requirement of posting the sign as well as put the mailings out, and then we submitted the proof of mailing as well as the sign back into Ann and planning and zoning. It may seem like it's a large building on a small site, but right across the street is the exact same size building. So it's in keeping with the neighborhood. The difference with this building it's in the rear of the parcel, so you can't really see it from the roadway.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just curious, Mike, is this lot close to Great Hill Road?
Good question. I believe Great Hill Road, yes. I believe it is.
Yeah, because I think I know the other building you're talking about, which is actually on Great Hill Road. I'm not sure it's on Hemlock.
Yeah, it's kind of like at the pie shape of it.
Right. Thank you. I don't think we have any of the public attending that want to make any comments. So any other questions by commissioners?
One other thing, Mr. Chairman, I do know that my client went to the neighbors and had spoke to them and let them know what he was proposing well before the application was submitted.
And Mr. Chair, we did not receive any comment, but you should open it up to the public in case somebody does want to comment.
I'm open to the public, and but I don't think we have any of the public here.
We do have about 10 people from the public here. So
do we have anyone who would like to comment on this application from 209 Hemlock Avenue?
Christy,
Christy Rubendunst, Fitchhill Road, 221 Fitchhill Road, Guilford. Not an adjacent neighbor, but around the corner, if you will. And I am familiar with the property as I grew up in this neighborhood. So, and I don't believe it will be visible from the roadway. I think it looks like a good design. So I would be in favor of it. Just from an aesthetic point of view. So, thank you.
Thank you for that.
Mhm.
Is there anyone else that would like to make a comment in favor or in opposition to this?
I don't see anybody else, Mr. Chair.
So I guess we'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Mr. Pritchard,
Yes.
Mr. Clark,
Aye.
thank you.
Welcome.
Bob Harrington,
Yes.
Roger Joyce,
Yes.
Ted Sands,
Yes.
and I will vote yes. Thank you. Thank you, Mike.
Yes, thank you.
You need to actually vote on to approve the application.
Do I hear a motion?
I'll move to approve the application.
And I'll second that motion.
In reverse order. Ted Sands,
Yes.
Roger Joyce,
Yes.
Mr. Harrington,
Yes.
Kevin Clark,
Aye.
Don Pritchard,
Yes.
and Mr. Freeman.
Yes.
And I will vote yes.
Thank you guys so much. Have a great
You're
night.
welcome.
See you
You're
next.
Yeah, thank you.
Take care now.
Moving on, Ann.
Mr. Chair, the next item on the agenda is 1960 and 1968 Boston Post Road. This is actually 4 lots, only 2 of which have an address. So it's map 78 lot 42, map 78 lot 43, map 79 lot 41, and map 78 lot 1. The applicant owner is 1940 Boston Post Road LLC, Robert Sachs Principal. The agent is attorney Marjorie Shansky, and this is an application for a map amendment, a change from the PRB 3 zone to the SC, which is the shopping center district.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. I'm attorney Marjorie Shansky, and as Ms. Harchin said, I'm representing 1940 Boston Post Road LLC in this application. The subject property is directly across from Guilford Commons, which is in the SC Shopping Center District. In fact, I'd like to share my screen and show you, let's see how adept I can be at this. A page from the application. Do you see that?
Yes.
I would like props for being able to share my screen with you.
You have my applause, Marjorie.
Thank you. Thank you. So here is Guilford Commons, and here are the 4 map block parcels that comprise that are currently in the PRB 3 zoning district, and the shopping center district is directly across the street. The objective here is to unleash the development potential of these parcels, which will be developed commercially. They will be developed, we believe, in as of right uses that are currently in the use table. And I want to digress just a moment and say this. In my application to you, I have a cover letter in which I explain what we're looking for, and I talk about the law governing amendments to zoning maps, and then I go through part of the consistency analysis of this request with the Plan of Conservation and Development, which is an important feature. And then appended to my application, I also have a narrative in which I go a little deeper into the consistency with the Plan of Conservation and Development, and discuss that the goal of this map change is to tap into a use that is permissible, an accessory use that is permissible in the shopping center district that is not permissible in the PRB 3 zoning district, and that is drive-through. Now, I'm not asking for a drive-through. I don't know whether the ultimate lessees would prefer to attempt to have a drive-through, but the reality is that what the SC provides that the PRB 3 doesn't is that there is that you have to get a special permit to have a drive-through. So that means that if this were a permissible accessory use or if this were an SC zoning district where an accessory use included a drive-through, we would file for a special permit, and maybe a special exception. Special permit, thank you, Ann. And have to demonstrate our eligibility with all of the standards that are in the zoning regulations. It would be within the commission's discretion at that time to either thumbs up or thumbs down that request. So we're not asking to implement anything. We're just asking to have this map amendment. And then I wanted to show you, oops, oh, now I'm going to not be as adroit. I'm going to show you another exhibit that I made for this evening. And this is a segment of the existing zoning map showing the SC zoning district and the PRB 3 right across the street. And that's existing. And this would be as proposed. So you see it's a coherent, contiguous, except for the Boston Post Road driving in between, zoning district continuity. It creates a commercial node that has utility for all of the Western development and further, since it's on the Boston Post Road. And the commission may remember that the orange area adjacent to, in this picture, let me go back to this picture, this orange area was approved in 2010 for 115 elderly units of residential development. The site has been being prepared for that development. That development then morphed over time. The elderly requirement was removed from it. Now we're doing, my client is doing a smaller configuration, which is friendly to the conservation areas and the wetlands. It's a big 84-acre parcel, 21 acres of wetlands, and a lot of conservation land that will be involved in it. There will be an affordable component. So this is all sort of continuity and comprehensive planning of a very rational variety to achieve a very flexible development template. I also want to share, and this isn't in my application, that I did a study of section 4.9 of the regulations, which is found on page 4-35, which is the Post Road Business 3 district, the existing district, and section 4.11 or 4.11, depending on the vernacular, which is found on page 4-44 of the regulations. And the use tables in the two zoning districts are remarkably, I'm going to say similar, but they're almost identical. In both the SC and the PRB 3 district, they have the same two uses without a requirement of a zoning permit. They have the same two uses that require a zoning permit. Then when you get into the site plan approval, I think only one exception. They have exactly the same uses. And then when you get to uses permitted by special permit, there is something that's permissible in the PRB 3 district with only site plan approval, requires a special permit in the SC zoning district. My point is that this is a distinction without a difference, or a difference without a distinction, except for one salient goal feature, which is the availability to seek a special permit for a drive-through should it become the commercially desirable thing for my client's property. I would also note, as you are aware, that we have proximity to the I-95 interchange, so it's a good site for the potential use, and it does no damage to the coherence and continuity of the zoning regulations. The last comment I want to make is that the request is limited in scope and limited in effect. Because, and I had discussed this with Ann before I applied, and I'm going to, if I can find my cursor, I will stop sharing so we can see one another, is that the other way of approaching this effort would have been through amending the text of the PRB zoning district to put a drive-through as an accessory use by special permit. In other words, to make it look just like the shopping center zone in that respect. However, you have 2 or 3 other PRB 3 zoning districts in town. So there would be a much broader effect of that text change than there is in this map change. Again, because the uses are so incredibly similar between the 2 zones, their contiguity, and the fact that the request to have a drive-through or a pickup window would take a full special permit application to this commission with your full discretion intact. That is the request.
I have a question. Thank you for that. Could I ask you to put up the first view that you showed us? A plan view, and it shows the area.
Yes, maybe. That is.
There we go. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, it appears to me, and first of all, I agree that this is a near ideal spot, commercially speaking, given its access to Route 1 and I-95. And I think the Guilford Commons has proven that area is useful commercially. However, it appears that the entrance driveway is offset from the driveway to Guilford Commons. And if that's the case, if that's the plan, not necessarily purview to us, but it would create a traffic nightmare if there's an offset intersection. Do you know if that's what's contemplated?
Yes, first I want to apologize for my bad behavior. I'm here tonight with Mark Landcore, who is the professional engineer on this project. I'm also here with Robert Sachs, who is a principal in the development. Mark, can you comment on that?
Mute. Okay. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I'm here. You know, the whole idea in the.
I beg your pardon, Mark. Could you please identify yourself for the record?
Yeah, Mark Lanecore for the record. I'm with I'm the principal engineer at Dymar, located in Southbury, Connecticut. The whole aspect of pulling this together is going to be you know, in terms of traffic control and that sort, is to try to align those intersection up. We do have in the process, you know, have a traffic engineer that's on board, and keeping in mind that whatever we do, being that it's Route 1, and as the commission members are all familiar, is that DOT is the one that's actually is going to have a heavy hand in how we enter and leave this site. So, you know, with that in mind, that traffic control system. It's got to work its way through DOT, and we do have a traffic consultant on board, and has been working out some of those details. But I can rest assured that whatever we do going forward, it won't happen without DOT's approval, because they are first order of business to make sure that the traffic flows safely and works conveniently for those entering both sites.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for that, Mark.
Yeah.
Do other commissioners have questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Where is the transfer station on this map?
I'm sorry, here comes the map again.
It's not far away, Ted.
Nope, next door.
It's
Yeah.
it's over
There,
here.
there's
little
only
past.
there's only one residential property. As you're looking at it from what we call the rock pile, which is where Fresh Market is. If you're standing on Route 1 looking to your left, that small rectangle is the only residential property between this proposed development and the
Transfer station.
look, the town dump. We call it.
All right.
But I think if Ann and I spoke earlier today, I think, Ann, correct me, both the residential properties on either side of this site plan are owned by LLCs.
No, what I had pointed
Oh.
out to you earlier is that it appears, though I haven't double checked this, that two of the parcels that are proposed to have this change have residential looking structures on them. But Marjorie could speak to that now, but two of the parcels in this shaded blue area have houses on them, or what appears to be houses.
I don't think so. Is that the case, Mark?
Yeah, again, Mark Lenko for the record. There are residential structures there, but this is completely within commercially zoned area. So those are not, those are actually going to be taken out. So.
And so ultimately, if this is developed commercially, obviously traffic patterns have got to be done in such a way, Mark, I'll put this to you, that access to what Marjorie has referenced as potentially residential areas behind it.
It's all behind.
That engineering wise, that's a complicated issue too.
Actually not, and I'll say this because going back, as Marjorie pointed out, back in 2010, that project was approved with the intersection across the street. We are holding that same pattern, and it was a boulevard basically that was approved back then to be constructed. And so we're not going to be deviating from what the
so just hold on, a boulevard between what is now the entrance to where Fresh Market is and across the street?
Yeah, basically the way the project enters is going through the commercial property into the residential. It is a pretty comprehensive plan that was looked at back in 2010 and approved back then, that took into consideration that this property had some commercial attributes to it, and that would be in concert working with the residential component in the back. So we're holding true to that original plan, and we're not deviating from what was the expectations from the town back then, which all those details were worked out.
So, Mark, were you involved in that in the rock pile development?
Not unfortunately, no. I was not. That was That was held by Waldo Associates back then. And they are the ones that secured all the approvals for the residential component. And that's what's actually being slated to be built in terms of its access and following that identical plan. So we're not deviating from that.
I'd like to clarify. I don't know who did the rock pile. Waldo and Associates did the approvals on this parcel.
Right.
On this parcel back in 2010, 2011.
The rock pile was DDR.
Yeah.
I stand corrected then.
All right, the entrance, well, when you come out of the Guilford Commons and you come to the intersection with Route 1, across the street is this mountain of looks like stone material that's been there for years and years. Is that where this boulevard is supposed to go?
Oops. I'm wondering, there's another plan, I hate to scroll here, but there was another plan associated with the application, which I think is probably on the town website, but maybe not on my copy here, that I think was more accurate in showing you how the entrance worked. But since this is just the map amendment, you know, those details are sort of next level return to the commission when we're actually implementing.
Yeah, I don't actually have any other plans besides this blue shaded one.
Okay.
I'll withdraw my question.
Other commissioners?
I have a question. So I'm going through the zoning stuff here, trying to make sure I'm looking at the differences and trying to understand this. And on the SC zoning thing, where it's allowing the drive-through is under accessory structures?
That is
what-
correct. That is correct.
So on PRB 3, in the same section, 49C, same way, 411C, it has a drive-through facility accessory to a permitted use in exactly the same way. That is the same between the two of them.
Except read to the right. In
Yeah,
the
one of them.
Oh, special. Okay, is that what I'm missing?
Yeah,
one of them.
Special permit.
It's not permitted in the PRB 3. It is permitted by special permit.
Oh, there it is. Okay, that's what I'm missing. Okay.
And that is the core reason we are here.
Okay, I understand now. I see what I was missing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kevin Clark with the commission for, my question is for Attorney Shansky. Just for clarification, so how does this relate to the Dunkin' Donuts getting a drive-through in the similar area? Different labeling of a zone completely, no relation at all? I remember that had to go through a special hearing as well, right? Special permit?
Yes, but that was before the comprehensive
regs?
right of the Guilford
Okay.
zoning regulations.
Okay.
And in that case, given the sparsity of whatever, that was a different zoning district than this.
Right.
We did that one by a text change. I intentionally did not do this one by a text change because of the broader effect that it would open up, whereas this one is just perfectly aligned with the permissive use across the street.
Okay, no, understood. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for the question.
Hey, if you unshare, Marjorie, I could bring up the aerial of the
Thank you.
from here.
While you're pulling that up, one other question. The only other difference I see is I think the PRB 3 allows you to do a refueling station and the other one doesn't.
That is one difference, yes.
There are a couple other minor changes that Marjorie didn't mention, but, you know, I would agree with her statement that in the bulk of it, these two sets of regulations are substantially almost identical, if that makes any sense.
So just for clarity here, you can see that these could, I believe is what you said earlier. I don't remember his name, but
Mark.
engineer Mark, thank you. This is already approved and lined up for this development back here. Is that correct?
You're 100% right. And in fact, I just pulled out my plan of what was originally approved, and it's lined up. That intersection's lined up.
And this is the infamous pile of rock.
Yes.
I mean, basically what's been happening there for, I mean, a long time is that Cherry Hill has been using it as a mining operation.
Right.
But
That's
that
what
was
they've been
because
doing.
the way it was approved in the past was that in order to get to the point where they could develop it, they had to take the material away. So if anybody had paid attention to the cut and fills of the site, they would have known that all that material had to go away. So if they didn't do anything that wasn't, allowed, they just had to do a lot of it.
We
And
are,
just the rock pile years ago didn't look like it looks today. It wasn't flat. So a lot of material was removed to
Oh
make
my gosh.
property useful.
Yeah.
Same
It's
concept.
a lot.
Is this probably not necessarily relevant to this conversation, but is the plan to still use an alternative treatment system? Or if you found suitable soils for a conventional septic?
No, it's still holding true to the old system,
Okay.
the original treatment system.
Is that something you saw come through, Kevin, in wetlands?
Yes. Yeah, in 2010, yeah.
Hey, Marjorie, 1940 Boston Post Road LLC, Robert Sachs Principal, have they owned this property for the entire time it was approved?
no, that was the Ellison Pastor. Yeah, no, Robert acquired, or 1940 acquired it from them. I can't tell you the year.
Okay. And did he acquire the entirety of the property, including the 82 acres that is still being suggested will be residential?
Yes, and Mark and I are coming attractions.
Oh, you are.
Stay tuned.
Something to look forward to. Okay.
This is just the baby step.
Right.
All right.
So Ann,
other
what do-
commissioners. Other commissioners. All right, Marjorie, you can just give us a teaser if you'd like to.
I'm sorry, I'm not at liberty to do that. A teaser about what? Timing or content?
No, I'm not so curious about timing. I'm curious about, who some.
Oh, no, I have
some-
nothing. I have nothing. No, in fact, I'm in a zone of like a zone of silence. I have no idea.
But it would be safe to assume, given that you have mentioned drive-throughs, that one of your suspects would have that as a part of their architecture.
It's simply part of the commercial landscape at this point in our history, and has been for the last 10, 15 years. So I have no idea if I will be back to seek a special exception, but I think it's important for the marketing to be able to have flexibility in what is available at the site.
And I believe there's a drive-through across the street, correct, at Panera?
Correct.
Panera, yes.
Yep.
No. Okay. Sounds good to me.
Do we have any public comment here?
That's a good question, Ted. I was just about to raise that. Is there anyone in our waiting room? Mr. Jason Marsh.
Good evening. My name, as you said, is Jason Marsh. I'm an attorney with Green and Sklar's LLC in New Haven. I appear on behalf of Catullo Associates LLC, which is the owner of 138 Catullo Drive, one of the abutting properties. My client doesn't oppose the zone change, but unfortunately has had a prior negative experience with development by the owner of the property that has impacted his property, and asked me to appear just as a friendly reminder to be a good neighbor when it comes time to ultimately construct whatever is the coming attraction will be, and to avoid any unpleasantness that arose. And I'm not insinuating that anything was done intentionally, but the fact was there was some impact to my client's property the last time around. So my client,
Jason, where was your property and what was the nature of the problem?
If Attorney Shansky, if you can bring up the map, it's easy to show.
You guys are really testing.
Oh,
you're good at it. You're getting good.
138 is right where the cursor is. If you move it to the left, it's the tiniest sliver of the abutting radius on the, nope, to the left, down right there. 138 is right there. When construction occurred previously, inordinate amounts of dust and debris migrated through the air and landed on my client's property, causing damage to his pool and to other, was just generally a nuisance and inconvenienced my client to a great extent. So again, nothing done with ill intent, I assume, but the fact remains it happened, and we're trying to avoid that happening again.
Well stated.
Mr. Marsh, I have to say your apartment looks remarkably similar to Jerry Seinfeld's.
I cannot believe you. I cannot believe you said that.
I was like, why does that look familiar?
This is a product.
You copied that to a T. Well done. That's
well. Thank you for that. I will say this is a byproduct of working from home during COVID, and I, like you, I am an elected official in the town of Trumbull, and I use this as my background when we do Zoom meetings, and it does elicit quite a number of reactions.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I'm waiting for Kramer to come in, Just...
Exactly. Right. Breaks up the monotony of a Zoom meeting.
Yeah, that was great. Good call, Kevin.
Thank you.
Thank you for noticing, and thank you for your time, and that's the extent of my comment.
Attorney Marsh, call me if you need something or have something. The first I learned of this was when Attorney Sklarz called me last week. So call me.
Of course, and Attorney Shansky, I did call you and left messages to give you some heads up that I would be appearing. I know you spoke with Mark earlier today, so I guess maybe you didn't. Your voicemail or answering machine didn't make its way to you.
I need to give you my secret number.
Ooh.
We would all like that, Marjorie.
Thank you all very much.
Welcome.
Thank you. Other commissioner questions or comments?
Well, other comments from the public.
Or other comments from the public. Thank you, Ted. I appreciate that. Anybody in the waiting room, Ann?
No.
No. Okay.
No.
So,
we have. I'm
Yep.
sorry.
Oh.
Somebody named AMH.
AMH.
Raise your hand.
Dr. Alexander Hoffman, 27 Coggins Court. Sounds reasonable. Do it.
Thank you. That is the kind of comments I love. That's beautiful.
Brevity.
Ever
so much. The soul of wit. Right.
Mr. Chair, may I offer a few comments as you consider how you would like to move forward?
I would welcome that, Ann. Thank you.
So the text of the current zoning regulations require you as a commission, if you're considering passing a map amendment, to attest that 5 different points have been met by the application. And I just want to read these to you so you can think about them as you go forward. You need to state on the record that one, the application is in accordance with the plan of conservation and development. Two, that it is suitable for the intended location. Three, that it will aid in protecting the public health, safety, and general welfare. Four, that it will aid in attaining the purposes of these regulations. That's a amorphous one. And five, will help accomplish the provisions contained in section 8-2A of the Connecticut General Statute. So you need to attest, if and when you approve this, you need to attest to all five of those points. Those are written out in the draft approval notice that was posted on the website if you want to take a look for yourself.
What did the last one, the state regulation, what does that concern on?
Now you're putting me on the spot. Let me look up 8.2A. Marjorie may be able to give it to you faster than I can.
Searching for it furiously. 8-2A says copies of zoning regulations shall be made available.
Yeah, it may be a bad, yes, you're right. It may be an incorrect reference.
Yeah, it might be, yeah.
And going back up to 8.2A, it certainly, and frankly, I have discussed this in my letter to you. That is simply, let me find my letter. I apologize, I've juggled everything in front of me. The inopportune way. Oh, so there are two, under 8-2, the test of a legislative action of a commission is twofold. The zone change or map change must be in accordance with a comprehensive plan, and it must be reasonably related to the normal police power purposes enumerated in your zoning regulations. And the comprehensive plan, which consists of your zoning regulations, has been demonstrated through the similarity between the PRB3 and the SC zoning district. Really, they are virtually synonymous except for this feature. And then in the rest of my letter and in the narrative appended to the application, I went through the sections of the Plan of Conservation and Development and identified for you things like there are 8 overarching goals: make compatible commerce and livelihood thrive. The plan is explicit in its recognition of the crossroads at which Guilford finds itself in terms of development patterns. The proposed map amendment reinforces compact development and supports adjacent residential development. The compact development because of the adjacency of the two pieces of SC. And then I go on for another half page. So I commend my narrative to your attention to support that finding.
If I may, the 8.2 may, and again, this is an interpretation at this point, it may relate to section 8.2 of the statute, starts with little a in parentheses 1, the zoning commission of each city, town, or borough is authorized to regulate within the limits of such municipality, and then it goes on to say what you can regulate: height, number of stories, size of building. So I'm thinking instead of being a dead link, this is a reference to just the general zoning statute that the Connecticut general statutes allows.
Not sure if other commissioners have any comments. I just have one other comment, and Marjorie can take this as a question if you'd like to, but I will understand if you want to remain silent. I would love to get some assurance that if this application is approved, that we could get some assurance that the residential aspect of this I'll call it a master plan, is going to move forward, because we have watched this, we have watched this dust cloud occur over Neighbors and Route 95 for years upon years upon years. And, you know, it concerns me personally. I'm not sure what the other commissioners, you know, what their sentiments are, but that this could be developed commercially in the very front end of budding Route 1, and the residential part of it just sits idle.
I appreciate the question. All I can say is that my experience with my client is that this is Mr. Lancour's and my charge to get it done. And the complexities of the site preparation, the complexities of the engineering are all underway. And I think that if there were something to comfort the chair, if that were an appropriate word, which it's not, but
my chair is very comfortable. Thank you.
But it has to do with the fact that the synergy between the coming residential development is part of what will make this attractive to the commercial users. So I think that they are really integrated in that way.
Thank you. I'm just trying to tease out as much as we can.
You may have just reached everything I've got.
Other commissioner like to try. You know, and we had talked about this. This is any kind of district change is significant, as complete and as convincing as the case that Marjorie's made and Mark has made. I'm wondering what commissioners think about continuing this, or speak up if you must.
I've heard enough, and I'm convinced that it's a positive thing. So that's my perspective.
Kevin?
I'm happy to see something going forward. I don't have a problem with it.
Ted?
I agree. I don't have a problem with it.
Bob or Don?
My only question was, it was identified that there's either two addresses, two parcels, or did I see that there's actually 4 separate parcels in that one location? And will all 4 be developed individually on that parcel, or all come together as one?
It will be parceled.
Okay.
No there problem. Are only, so the town planner, assigns addresses. For whatever reason, 4 parcels here were only, 2 of them only, as of today, have actual addresses assigned, which is why in the notice we have the 4 different parcels noticed separately, because 2 of them don't actually have addresses yet.
Bob, any comments?
No, it seems reasonable. The only real addition is the drive-through, and they're losing the ability to have any sort of gas station there, which, you know, they're gaining one thing, they're giving up another, and there's another drive-through right across the street. So it's not a big change for the area. It's not significant.
Roger, any final thoughts?
One reaction. Thank you, Sean. Our plan on conservation and development is clear about certain areas of town that are suitable for commercial development and other areas that are not. So here's, I think, an opportunity for what I think is a site that's ideally located for commercial development that I would encourage to continue, and certainly the residential aspect in the back. No doubt, because of the investment the owner has put into the property already, they'd be anxious to make that happen as well. And I think both would be very supportive of our, our mission here in the work we do as well.
Thank you, Roger. So I will entertain a motion to either continue or to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second that.
All right. Mr. Freeman.
Yes.
Mr. Pritchard.
Yes.
Mr. Clark.
Yes.
Mr. Harrington.
Yes.
Joyce.
Yes.
Mr. Sands.
Aye.
Oh, Ted, you
I
warm
left-
my heart.
I left,
You
I
warm my
left
heart.
it for him and he
I will
picked it up.
also say aye.
Good one, Ted.
Mr. Chair, if I may, if you guys are considering approving this tonight, I would either ask you to approve the draft report as drafted, or to read into the records points 1, 2, and 3 of the draft approval, so that you have actually stated on the record all 5 things you are supposed to state, plus the effective date.
So,
I can bring it up if that's helpful.
okay, all right. Please do. And then one of the commissioners can read the motion and have an opportunity to read that.
You wanted 1, 2, and 3 read?
Well, you need to make a motion first.
Yeah, no, it's just, so, I'd like to make a motion to approve, the map amendment for the parcels as noted above. The town of Guilford regulations require the following actions by the planning commission to approve all maps and amendments. And I believe you said you'd like me to read 1, 2, and 3. Is that correct?
If you would like to make that part of your motion, yes.
Okay. Number 1, the Planning and Zoning Commission has stated on the record that this change is in accordance with the plan of conservation and development, is suitable for the intended location, will aid in protecting the public health, safety, and general welfare, will aid in attaining the purpose of these regulations, and will help accomplish the provisions contained in section 8-2 small a of the Connecticut General Statutes. Number 2, the effective date of this map amendment will be December 6, 2024, which is after the publication of the notice of decision, which is November 21, 2024. This map amendment will be available for review at the Planning and Zoning Office, and it will be filed with the town clerk prior to the effective date.
I'll second that motion.
All right. Here we go again, gentlemen. Ted Sands.
Yes.
You broke up.
Sorry, can you repeat the next person?
I said Roger Joyce.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Robert Harrington.
Aye.
Thank you. Kevin Clark.
Yes.
Don Pritchard.
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes.
And I will vote yes.
Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Chair, we have a number of items for discussion, and I would
We do, but I have a proposal,
Yeah.
A comfort proposal, just to give everybody a bathroom break.
I'm all for that.
Okay.
I'll take that.
All right, so let's say 10 minutes.
10 minutes. Ooh.
Okay,
No,
9:20.
no, make it 7 minutes, Bill.
All right.
9:19, we will reconvene.
Thank you. Well, I'm refreshed. I hope everybody else is.
Good daisy. Yep, that was a good idea.
They come to me occasionally.
Yeah, everybody, I guess Ted, we're waiting for Ted.
Ted's a big walker. I see Ted walking all over town with a big walking stick.
So what's he doing now? Taking laps around the green?
You know, I was down by the post office one day and I saw him. Then I was over by the American Legion or whatever that is over by the school, and he was over there. And then the other day I saw him on Lake Street just walking. Yeah, I think he walks a lot.
Wow.
He has like a very tall like mountain, staff. Try to wave to him or something.
Sean, if you're okay, I'd like to just start and Ted can catch up.
No, I think we should. It's
Yeah.
the hour is late, and
Yeah.
we are at 9:19. So
Okay. A few points, and I need to add a point at the end just for discussion and to let you guys know what's going on. We have awarded the contract for the plan of conservation and development to a group called Resilient Land and Water. We interviewed 3 different firms, and Sean, Matt Hoey, and I decided that this was the best group for the job. They have a deep history with Guilford. But to that end, we are going to start workshopping all of the issues that need to be vetted in the plan of conservation and development. And we need a steering committee from the Planning and Zoning Commission to help steer the project. So we need some volunteers and or some appointees who'd be willing to meet in person or remote on a monthly basis to talk to the consultants about their work.
yeah, so I
Go ahead.
okay, I have mentioned this to Roger, Kevin, and also Phil. Phil is on the proverbial fence. Kevin is going to be coming off the commission in February, so he would not be appropriate. But I would be open to other volunteers. Bill, would you be willing to?
Yeah.
'Cause I think that the number, keep it to 3 people, as a steering committee, because as we meet monthly, one or more of us, might not be able to make it for some reason or another. So if we just keep it to 3, I think 1 or more of us will likely to be able to consistently be part of that steering committee.
That sounds interesting.
So are you expressing interest?
Yes, I said yes. 100%.
Okay, and Sean, I'm assuming you want to be 1 and 3 as well.
Yes.
Okay, so Sean.
Roger, me, and Sean.
Bill, and who? And Roger?
And Roger.
Okay.
That's great.
Good.
That is great. I was impressed by this firm. I think, and all 3 of the principals that we met with were part of the 2015 plan.
Yes.
So they have. So what we looked at. I mean, all 3 firms were impressive in their own ways, but this firm had the added benefit of continuity. 2 of the principals are from Madison, so they know Guilford very, very well. They've seen the changes in the town. They worked on the prior plan. So, and they're, as Ann referenced, they're the element of their plan that caught our eye, I think, and you can confirm this, but was their engagement plan, because we really do want community engagement, and they seem to have the best plan, and it'll be refined over time, and is the extension.
Yeah, so what I will do is I will send all 3 of you our schedule of planned meetings, and I will resend out because 2 of you haven't seen it, the actual proposal, so that you can take a look and see what it's.
That'd be great.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Our second item of discussion is, I believe, Sean, you've made a new appointment to the designee to the
Yes.
Affordable Housing Commission.
Yes, I met with Larry Rizzolo. I think Larry, my memory fails me, but it was probably 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, more or less.
So more or less, could have been a month. But Larry, even though being an alternate, he would not be a voting member on the Affordable Housing Committee, but he has a long history with the newly formed commission, and I think that again, I think continuity is important, and I think Larry would be a good person to do that.
Seems very logical.
Great.
Great. Our third item is just an item in case you want me to pursue this any further. We had an issue come up. We received inquiries from two different parties. One was a gentleman who owns a boat at the Guilford Yacht Club, and another inquiry from the yacht club itself. There was a special permit that was approved in 1987 by the Planning and Zoning Commission, under which one of the conditions of approval was that the commission decided that it had purview over the residency of, shall I say, the people who own the boats, whether you could live on your boat or whether you could not.
Mm-hmm.
What happened about a month ago is a gentleman reached out and he said, can I rent out my boat as an Airbnb? And I said, we don't have any short-term rental regulations. In fact, we just got rid of them. And he said, okay. And then like a day later, the yacht club calls up in arms and says, listen, we have this special permit from 1987 that says the Planning and Zoning Commission does not allow people to live on their boats. And so I took a look at it and I kind of began to scratch my head, because boats reside by their general nature below the coastal jurisdiction line, where generally your authority ends. So I said to myself, well, we don't regulate things on the water. And then I had a little discussion with our counsel, and he's like, well, there are cases where you can, but it's a gray area. Anyways, my point being, when we talked to the yacht club again, we said, you know what, instead of making us essentially enforce something that you do or do not want to happen, why don't you just change your bylaws to say whether you would allow people to live on their boats or not?
It's almost like an HOA. I mean, they can control what they control, and it's their association.
Yeah. So the question to you was that was my last advice to them. I don't particularly want to wade into the legal gray area that this brings up, but if you would like me to take it further, I can. So the question was, do you want me to pursue this any further, or shall we just let this lie until it maybe pops up again?
Lie.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
I like the way you handled that. That's very elegant.
Yes.
Well, I didn't want to regulate something on the water. I was like, that's a little.
Yeah. Don't wade into that.
No, that was a nice little caveat or loophole.
I apologize.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Okay.
Too late for those.
I wanted to give you an update on the landscape plan you asked me to do for Benton's Knoll. I haven't actually put pencil to paper yet, but I did walk the site with the president, vice president, and secretary of the Benton's Knoll HOA. We reviewed what the previously approved plans were, and we decided on making a few changes to make it a little less costly, because as you will recall, we only have $50,000 to plant about 50 trees. And I said to them, if we can lessen the number of trees where you don't actually want them, we can throw more money at things like watering to keep things alive.
And just clarify, was that was that,
Just
the
for one.
50,000 part of the performance bond?
Yes.
It was part of the original bond that was used for both it was a bonding for both the road infrastructure and for planting. The majority of the bond was released last fall because the roads were completed and we had held back $50,000 to complete the landscape.
Okay, so the original bond was much larger than
Yes,
$50,000.
it was something like $200,000.
Yeah, it was 200.
Yeah. So the plan would be, and I'm just updating you, is to finish the drawings this fall and bid the project for spring 2025 installation, and then we should be done with it. But I am also going to walk the site with the Comans to make sure that the new plantings in the vicinity of their house are, not that they get sign off on it, but there are some plants I can move around to make their screening better.
I am so glad you mentioned their name. I think that they've been before us. You know, for those commissioners who don't, who were not on the commission, I was for at least certainly one, if not two, of their appearances before the commission, and they have really been, they've been troopers. They've been persistent. They've been very specific in their concerns, and I think that taking their concerns into account is a very important part of this, you know, overall solution to getting Benton's Knoll off our agenda.
Here, here.
Okay.
Please.
I do have one question about, did we skip over the status of the bond, or does that, did I miss them talking about that?
No, we still hold $50,000, and you, as a commission, instructed me to pull that bond and use it for this planting plan.
1486 Boston Post Road, status of
Oh,
bond.
I'm sorry. I have the wrong agenda. Yep, I gotta do that one too. Yes, okay, so back to Dunkin' Donuts. Frank, we all remember that saga. So
Aye.
his conditional certificate of zoning compliance that expired on October 27th. That was 180 days from the date it was issued. He was supposed to have completed all work by that date. He did post a bond. I'll have to look up the amount. The issue I'm running into with him at this point is that he came back in late spring, early summer with a phased plan for the project. You will all recall that. In that phasing plan, he did not update his planting plan. The landscape plan that was approved by the Design Review Committee in, I believe, 2021, doesn't match what is out there today. So Marjorie and I are going to talk about this next week with Frank, but I just wanted to let you know that what I have suggested, and we will work out the details, is that Frank needs to come back with a revised planting plan that matches what's out there today, so that I can say, yes, you have met what you were approved to do, and I can sign off, and now we can issue your real C of O for phase one.
So, and with this, given the fact that the plantings do not conform to the original plans,
right?
The current plantings do not conform.
Correct.
Is this all before us, or does it go back to design review, or?
Well, Marjorie has her hand up, but let me speak first. You know, there may have been an intent. He may have just forgot. I don't know. I can't speak to the intention behind this. The regulations are not, they don't, unlike many procedures in the new regs, this specific situation is not spelled out. What I can glean from the record, which again, our records are not that good. And, you know, he may have come back with a planting plan between 2021 and today. I can't find anything else. But the regulations are silent on modifications in terms of the purview of the design review committee. So one could interpret that as modifications do not need to go back to the design review committee. It's silent either way. I have been interpreting it as modifications are not required to go back to the design review committee, but one could interpret it in another way.
But basically, and I'm waiting to hear from Marjorie on this, but you know, he's in nonconformity with the original plan.
I do have a question about that. When they did the reconfiguration due to the easement issue and different things, didn't that sort of get changed, some of the planting? Isn't that went through the review process as far as I remember?
There's no planting plan that was submitted with that phasing plan.
Yeah.
There's
Not
changes
the phasing plan, not the changing in the phasing plan, but the reconfiguration of the lanes and things that had to do with the easement, I believe, that was unknown or not being enforced at the time. So was that when I thought, maybe I'm remembering it incorrectly, but I thought there was some plantings that got removed or things at that point. So maybe Marjorie can clarify that.
Well, maybe we let Marjorie speak on this.
I appreciate the opportunity to speak. So I asked Frank to get me the plant list from the landscape plan. I have a statement from the landscape installer. I don't know what the proper word for that person is. I have another almost affidavit, a high level of certitude assertion that what has been acquired and planted is what was required by the landscape plan. And Frank has shown me a couple of places where they did some additional plantings to fill stuff in. It is true, as Commissioner Freeman notes, that whether by inference, explicit, common sense, or whatever needs to be ratified, the phasing plan and the recognition of the easement precludes putting plants in the middle of the easement without creating liability all around. So that's sort of a de facto, if not an actual modification that did come through the commission. And there's one other area that is that was a field change where I have both a drawing and a note from Sonia when the septic system went in and the riprap on the incline. And Janice, I think, was party to that. Now, you know, whether to the extent that that was deemed to be an appropriate field modification needs to come back to this commission, then let's do that. But the point is that there was a steadfast compliance with the planting matter, with the actual planting, and I've got statements and receipts that Frank has sent me to show that. And I'm meeting with Ann on Friday, so we'll try to sort it out.
Right. Our intention is to sort this all out and get the COs issued, but given that there are lots of eyes on this, we need to make sure that he's in complete compliance with what was approved. So that's the issue at hand.
Yeah, and I'll add, Marjorie, you understand the optics of this.
No question about it. And you know, I'm an I dotting T crossing kind of person. So, but this is an effort to reconcile sort of conflicting perspectives on what we have some objections.
And I appreciate that. You know, the last thing this commission wants to do and be perceived as is a heavy hand. We just want to make sure that, you know, that we're treating applicants fairly and
Right.
equally. And
Right.
and Frank's history as a commissioner is an issue.
Yep.
And I say, let's find the solution and implement it, and I'll see Ann on Friday morning. Which was the soonest she could get me in. I'd be happy to have gone sooner.
Yeah, I did. Well, that you know, you used my favorite word, solution.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Thank you for letting me.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. We have a draft schedule for 2025. I believe you were all copied on it or sent it. Does anybody have any changes they would like to see on that? If not, I would love you to vote to approve this because we need to get something up. Even if we have to make changes later, we have vetted this against all major holidays that we can identify, not like every holiday under the sun, but I will say all major Christian and Jewish holidays. So if there's some other conflict that you see that you would like us to correct, I'd be more than happy to do so. But I do need to get something posted very quickly because people are starting to plan for next year and need to know what our deadlines are.
Let's get it posted. Do we have to vote on this?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll move approval of
have all the commissioners reviewed the schedule for 2025?
I can bring it up if you'd like to look at it.
Why don't you bring it up?
Okay, let me do
Make sure, that anybody who has, holidays that they particularly like, make sure they're updated.
This is a joint schedule between the ZBA and the Planning and Zoning Commission.
I mean, I should know this, but I don't. But the meeting on January 8th is the second Wednesday, right? I understand why we can't do it on the first.
Yeah, that's a blip in the schedule because we can't do it on the first.
Right.
There were some adjustments made for things like that where we don't want to meet on New Year's Day.
Right. No, I'm just saying that's the second Wednesday of the month is usually when the Wetlands Commission meeting is. So depending whether or not they move theirs, like I said, I probably know that, but I don't. But that might be just somewhat of a conflict for me, but whatever.
And we all like the August recess.
Yes.
This looks fine.
And the September one didn't hurt either.
So I'd
All right.
love to
Did
hear a
Ann
motion.
say that Kevin was rotating off, or did I mishear that? Did somebody?
Kevin is rotating off in February.
Oh,
More than likely. Yeah. I was
hope
going
it
to do it
wasn't
sooner,
anything
but I
else.
didn't want to miss the Christmas party.
Well, they closed the restaurant, so I got to find a new one.
Yeah. It's gonna be lemon and char or something now.
Also, another restaurant is going in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
Good.
Is it
That's awesome.
Is it a pizza place?
It's like a high-end pizza place, I think,
It's a pizza place.
Yeah.
I would like to have a zoning regulation that says that you can't have a pizza place on the green, but
Ted, what are you saying? You can walk there.
I understand that, but I just think that it does not give the right atmosphere to the green.
I think it's a pretty fancy, from what I've been told, it's a very high-end pizza and Italian food.
So maybe Pete doesn't. Maybe he wants something low end. I mean, you don't know.
Okay, gentlemen, can somebody
Yes.
make a motion
Yes.
to approve the schedule, please?
Can I hear a motion?
Okay, I make that motion that we approve it.
I'll second it.
Ann wants to get the hell out of here.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
One more
Thank you.
thing.
Yes.
In our regulations, we have a requirement under 9.1.a that any building permit requires a zoning permit. There's a long back history that I'm not going into at 9:44 in the evening, but I will say that the enforcement of this regulation has ruffled some feathers in town. I would make a suggestion, because this requires things like, let me give you an example. If you're upgrading your electrical service, this sentence alone requires you to get a zoning permit before you can go get your building
permit, right.
And that may not be the intent, but that's the result of the regulation. So I would make a proposal for you to consider, and again, we can, I can notice this and do this properly, but that we have, instead of every building permit requires a zoning permit, that we consider a situation where every building permit requires a zoning permit or a zoning review, which would be essentially a zoning permit light that could be less expensive. It still gets our eyeballs on every application, but it takes away the objections that we are experiencing on a daily basis and the abuse of the staff.
Yeah, so, and it basically is a way for people who have, you know, in most cases, routine stuff, an avoided cost.
Yeah,
And the
but
staff time.
let me be clear. State statute requires that our zoning eyeballs look at every building permit. So
Oh, okay, that was gonna be my
it
question.
doesn't
Okay.
stop the fact that we're doing a zoning review. We're just calling one something a little different.
Okay.
And we would charge less money for it. And if you're on board with that concept, I would follow through with the text change so that we can make it official, but I wanted to run it by everybody and see what you thought first.
So this be twofold where it would help the staff in the department there and also help the applicant.
It doesn't really help us. It's still the same amount of work, but it would help the applicant in that it would be slightly cheaper and they wouldn't feel maybe that they were burdened by something called a permit as opposed to a review.
So when you refer to review, does that mean the whole commission has to review it?
No,
Or it
no,
just
no,
has
no,
to
no.
come through your office?
Just, it's what we're doing now, which is we review, we literally put our eyeballs on every single permit and we say, is this zoning compliant or is it not? This would be, instead of calling it a zoning permit and charging $100, we would do zoning reviews for things that don't have setback requirements, don't trigger a floor area calculation. All of those things essentially.
No, I get the
interior-
concept.
Yeah.
I didn't know if all 7 of us, like it had to go through a whole.
No,
board
no, no,
review,
it's
Or just your eyes only was sufficient.
literally me and Abby reviewing every permit.
And the fee collected, it's all, goes to the town, the state doesn't get a cut of that, okay.
No, currently $60 of the fee goes to the state. I'm reviewing options for that, so if we can get rid of that state contribution, which I think we might be able to, but I need to review with council. The zoning permit would be reduced to $40. The zoning review could either be $5 or free, or haven't gotten that far, but
Okay.
that would be the
Great.
idea.
Yeah, very good.
Okay, so it sounds like everybody's on board. I will,
Anything we can do to
Mhm.
reduce cost and streamline.
Yeah.
Stay on it. I'm totally in favor of that.
okay, we will vet that with council and move forward with that. And with that, I think I've run out of items, which is great because the
The only remaining item is the only remaining item is the approval of the
Minutes.
September 4th minutes.
Yes.
All right, Ted, did you have any changes of vernacular or syntax that we must know?
I had lots of those. And there's,
I was reading it going, I'm not reading this like Ted. No way.
The only issue is that the recording of the session does support the idea that this house in Indian Cove that was being torn down and replaced will be elevated by 10 feet. That's what was said. I believe it was really 10 inches, but anyway. That's what's in the minutes. But yes, I've reviewed them and I recommend that we approve the minutes.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Beautiful. Okay. Would any-
And thank you for helping us out tonight. And Robin, if she's still out there, thank you for your help.
And Abby.
And
Abby.
Drafted letter.
Yep.
And Sean, you did a wonderful job tonight. I think this was your first full session.
You got through it. Good job.
I survived, Bill. That's
No, you did a great job. I love your temperament and your tone and everything. It was wonderful.
Natural.
Yes.
Here, here.
I think somebody can move to adjourn.
Yes. Ted.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Absolutely.
Thank you, everyone.
Good
night.
Come on.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Good night. Good night.